Hello, everyone. So we have two very, very special guests tonight. So my very good friends and colleagues, Dan and Sophie, so Dan is the owner of West Country Pets, and Sophie is his drummer. He's just called you actually in there, and manager, and yeah, basically the one that holds it all together in the background.
Take that.
Yeah, yeah, I take it. Yeah. Um, and so we are, well, I'm not actually. I'm going to let these two, although I'll jump in if need be. But we have lots of discussions, I think, about how you guys have made me realize how pet shops are so much more the front line than I kind of realized before I worked in the pet shop with you guys, and kind of what that means and what you guys mean to being part of the community as well. So yeah, you're kind of the front line, you keep the community together. You're like the place where people hang out if they need support with their mental health or they've lost a. I mean, it really is like the shop is so much more than just a pet shop, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally the project started. I've always had a passion for animals since as young as I can remember, and um, I kind of found myself. I don't really know how to put it. I was kind of almost lost. I'd had sort of a bit of a breakdown, and everything had kind of gone a little bit wrong in my life, and I was really searching for my place in life, and I somehow ended up on a market stall selling soaps of all things, soaps and bath bombs and stuff. And I really have no idea how I ended up being there. And at the point that I was kind of explaining to an 80 something year old lady in a farmer's market in Hatherley about her cleansing ritual, that's about the point that I went, this isn't where I want to be. This is not anything to do with me. And I've been guffing on for ages to the market managers in all the different markets that I really wanted to get involved with pets. You know, that was my thing. But there was already pet stalls there, and I was quite lucky. One of them retired, and I was basically given a shop, and literally it started from there. So I was on a 3 meter gazebo, selling a handful of pet products, and because it's my passion, because it's what I know and understand, the business just took off, and I moved from there to a small shop, and then I expanded to a bigger shop, and then everybody got annoyed that I tinkered enough, and they would just kind of just go and find another project. So I found another shop to take on, and that was the Bude store, and that's when I got Sophie involved in the business because I kind of needed help, and she actually knows what she's doing. Um, and so we've kind of grown and grown from there. But at the core, from the very, very early days, has always been community. Um, we literally, and I can show you, it's literally right behind me there. We have two chairs directly opposite the counter in our Holsworthy store. Literally there waiting for somebody to come in and have a chat if they just need a chat about anything, and it could be literally anything. So we've had people's marriages breaking down. We've had people who have been really ill but haven't been able to get to the doctors. We've had dentist issues. We've had pets that they've lost. We've literally had everything.
And that was just last week.
And that's just last week. um, and there are some real harsh days that we've had. I remember a couple of years ago, a customer came in and they'd just lost a pet. We're really fortunate. We tend to be the first people that people come, that they come in and they say, I'm just about to get a puppy or a kitten. We're the first people they let know. And we generally tend, because we're quite close to the vets as well, we tend to be the first people they let know when they've lost them as well. So we see the full cycle. And there was a day a few years ago where a customer came in and they just lost their dog, and I was standing at the end of the aisleway crying with them because it's such an emotional roller coaster sometimes, and I was there literally crying with them, and I had that moment with them, and then they left the shop. And I walked from the end of the aisleway back to the counter, and there's a customer there standing there saying, "This is my new puppy," and had just brought in her new puppy. And you have to go from one extreme to the other. Um, and so to have built the business to a point where that's where we're at, we are those people to our customers. we've got to pick the right team around us. And like I said, I'm really fortunate that I have Sophie. She understands the business side as well as the emotional side and the animal side. And but we've also got to have the fun side, the social media. I mean, I don't know if anybody here has seen
Well,
my
you have the fun with the social media, Dan. We just have to put up with it.
I have some weird and wonderful ideas. I'm not going to lie. If anybody hasn't checked out our TikTok, West Country Pets on TikTok, you'll see the slow descension into madness that Sophie,
They
every
are
time
quite
I put
awesome.
something up, every time I put something up, Sophie's like, "The hell have you done?" So yeah, but that's kind of, you've got to have all aspects of it, really. And I'm really proud of the business that we've built, and it's we're all a little bit insane in our own little ways, and it just builds what it is. But I'm going to pass over to Sophie now because she will speak more professionally than me.
Yeah, what's your background, Sophie?
So I've done quite a few bits and pieces. Grew up daughter of a gamekeeper way back in the 90s and was well and truly in the thick of all things countryside and animal based. So we had, although slightly controversial, the working dogs. We had hounds, there was hunting, there was beating and shooting. But from that, this kind of love of animals was completely instilled in me. And I think I was quite lucky in the sense that my parents were very understanding of animals' needs and what they exhibit and bits and pieces like that. So fast forward a few years at college, I did an extended diploma in animal management. Off the back of that, I worked in zoos for a few years, spent a couple of years traveling, working in predominantly dog rescues, sort of across Europe and down through Morocco. In between, to kind of fund the voluntary work, I was pulling pints, but the kind of bar side counselling that you become quite good at, because again, it's all of people's lives is just kind of dumped on you. It's totally transferable to the pet shop, 100%. Like Dan said, you're the first port of call when they get a new family member, and generally the first port of call when they've lost them. But it's all the bits and pieces in between, and like having you on board's been amazing for being able to add that extra bit of help and direction for them, because there are rules and regulations where we obviously aren't allowed to diagnose above what we're qualified for and bits and pieces like that. But having you as a sideline to direct people to with the triage that you're doing, and it brings it all back round again. And what's really lovely, similarly to when you did the talk at the library, when you've got two owners who feel isolated because they're struggling with a dog with big feelings or reactivity or whatever the issue is, and you see these friendships spark up, or it could be like silly things that puppies are doing, or it's just really lovely. It's a really nice situation to be in. Obviously you have
Animals
bad
do
days.
bring us together, don't they?
No, 100%. I mean, if you've got a reactive dog, then you might have to unite
They
on
bring
your
us
own.
together on our own without the dogs, yeah.
Introverts
or shouting at each other at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
I think
But
also,
no, it's been really nice. It's been really nice. And like we've done quite a few charity things as well for like the local area. And one of them was a dog show. And we put so much effort into it. And literally the day before we had to pull it because the weather was going to be atrocious. And we were right on top of essentially a seaside field on a cliff. And we thought that was it. We had loads of stall holders pull out, loads of people tell us that they weren't going to be able to make it. The following week, it came to opening times, and all of a sudden, all of Bude was there. And it was just absolutely mind-blowing, like the support that had come from it. Because although that you're within the community, it's not until moments like that happen where you completely like, oh my God, like, this is something that we've actually created. And like, even now, the feedback that we get from it is just super, super lovely. And, it's bits and pieces like that that just make it really special.
we've also managed to put ourselves in an interesting position at the moment where, so we've started working with a a local radio station, Cornwall's Rewind Radio. So they're the only independent radio station in Cornwall now, covering Cornwall and West Devon. And they work closely with RSPCA Cornwall branch, which is a rehoming centre. And we now sponsor their rehoming slot every Wednesday. And because of that rehoming slot, they've managed to now rehome over 400 animals this year, which is incredible. You know, those animals have now found themselves forever homes that they wouldn't necessarily have found as easily if it hadn't have been for that slot that we're now part of. And we're now tying in even closer with them. We've just done a donation drive for them, which after a bit of a sort of a slow start, actually went quite well. And we've got most of a van load of stuff that we can take down to them now. So that's going to be really nice to be able to give those cats and dogs in their care sort of a nice Christmas. Yeah, we've sponsored the football club, the youth football club in Holsworthy. So it was the under sevens we sponsored with them. So with their shirts, so that was quite nice. Personally, I don't like football, but it gives the kids something to do that's not.
Well, it's just the community again, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's So, what do you guys think is the most dangerous thing? Because I see you guys doing a great job. But it's opened my eyes to how many, I've said to you guys, haven't I, is that I think when you become like a behaviorist or, I am surrounded by my community, which is other behaviorists and people that are, trying to regulate this industry and that, are quite, some of them quite high up in the industry. And I think it's very easy to have this kind of this focus of trying to regulate dog training and doing all of these things. And for me, working in the pet shop was like, yeah, that's all great, but we're missing out on like this whole grassroots situation going on here that, there are people walking into pet shops and not in our pet shops, but in a lot of pet shops and getting horrendous advice. And it kind of opened my eyes to how bad that is, like how dangerous.
I think an example of that would be, so when we took over Stable Door, our predecessors had been there for, what was it, 20 odd years?
18.
Yeah. And didn't have, or the reputation that they had was not talking to their customers. So people would walk in, and if they used the wrong door, they were told to go out and use the right door. So, when we initially came in and took over, one, it was obviously, new people in a local area, a little bit of pitchforks at dawn. But for the most part, I think we had quite a warm reception. There were the odd few that took a little bit of time to adjust. But we had people coming in, and even now we get people coming in saying, I've not been up here for years because I came in once and this happened, or I came in, with the previous people. Or people coming in who have been to another pet shop and been advised on something that is just, it's obvious that they haven't worked on their own knowledge, if that makes sense. It's one of those like facepalm moments, but you're not allowed to facepalm because you've got to be semi-professional. And,
you don't have to be here.
Well, yeah.
I won't outwardly share this. Don't worry, guys. It'll be just for my members.
It's one of those where you're like, oh, geez, really?
So certain misinformation and shops selling to get sales. Those are the two biggest problems. So, there's this huge influx at the moment of, particularly since COVID, people that have trained online to do certain things. I'm not going to out particular companies. Sophie probably guesses who I'm thinking of. But there's online trainers who have literally no qualifications whatsoever apart from some online course that they've done for 20 minutes on one day, and the following they've got is massive, and yet the advice they're giving is so shocking. And it's, and yet people will take this as gospel because they've got, 30,000 followers on TikTok or something, and it's just, And then there's that, and then on top of that, you've got some of these really large companies like Pets at Home, like Jolly's, like Pets Corner, who, you know, they're really good at marketing and they're really good at, you know, making things look really good and like they're giving honest advice. But when you know that Pets at Home, everything they sell, barring 2 or 3 items, are own brands. How's that independent advice? Pets Corner, the big brands that they own, that they sell, they co-own. Pets Corner, I actually was told once by a rep who's a former employee by them, don't use allaboutdogfood.co.uk as your independent advice. Use this other one. I can't remember now off the top of my head the company, but that's actually been owned by Pets Corner. It was created by Pets Corner. So the advice they're giving is use these foods that we sell and we own. And you kind of look at this and you go, how is this okay? I would rather take something.
I have actually had somebody who I have given nutritional advice from with like my, you know, I've taught a level 3 AIM course. I've done extensive research with myself. I'm doing my AIM, my iPad level 3 in nutrition, and I'm there discussing with one of my clients what nutrition that their dogs, you know, need. And they've actually gone into a pet shop, and they've come back to me and gone, yeah, the lady in the pet shop said that, you know, you're wrong. And actually my dog should be doing this. And they've listened to the lady in the pet shop. So that's how much power, like, you have in a pet shop, isn't it?
Although it makes a nice change that they've gone into a pet shop and accepted the advice there. Normally they come in and talk to us and they say, no, my vet has told me to do something completely different.
Yes. Yeah, it's not every customer by any means.
And we all know what great advice the vets give on nutrition. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
My absolute favourite is when somebody gets a dog from a breeder, comes in to buy Baker's Butcher's pedigree, and the dog has to stay on it because that's what the breeder had mother on. And when I say to them, oh, that's amazing. So was the breeder a nutritionist? Do they have qualifications in nutrition? The face drop is the moment I'm like, would you like to have a discussion on what might be slightly more suitable and full of less carcinogenics? Because ultimately, it gets to a point, especially when you've done it for a little amount of time, where you kind of know what boundaries you can push and how cheeky you can be. And sometimes you have to be that little extra bit cheeky so that people actually listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, you know,
that's the pub coming in, though, Sophie, isn't it? That's
and I think
pub. That's those skills, without a doubt, coming in, because I have those pulling pint skills too. Yeah.
It's also kind of like a challenge accepted mindset of, I know I can make life better for this dog. Obviously, you have to do that within the owner's remit, and we fully take that into account. But there are always alternatives. And, you know, speaking to somebody who has a little bit more knowledge than Dave down the pub, or your mate Sandy who's had dogs for 20 years, it's the owners who are a little bit more open to those conversations, or the ones that you completely turn on their head, which is just like the golden moment of
like, the thing is, it's not even just food. I had a customer in the other day. She came in, she had a 5-6 month old Springer cross poodle, and this little thing, tiny, was like this, and she wanted a halty head collar on her because she was pulling. And I'm like, she's not pulling, she's just a puppy. And this woman was adamant that the only way to fix this dog was to put a halty head collar on. And the reasoning for this was because she previously had a Springer who, when he had a halty head collar put on, he stopped pulling. And it's like, there's so many better ways of doing this. And I managed to dive after, lots of venom in my direction from this lady. I managed to divert her, mainly because when her husband came in, I said to him, it's like, the reason that it's working is because it's like if you did something that I didn't like, I punched you. And every time that that you did something I
I love
didn't.
the bluntness that we use in.
Sophie's been a really bad influence on me. I was never like this before. But yeah, I mean, it's literally, and sometimes it does take that. And as soon as I said that, he went, "So should we talk about the harnesses then?" And it's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's, but we offer free harness fittings and they're no obligation. So it's almost like let's show this customer what we're talking about. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's do a free harness fitting that's no obligation. And I've done it before where I've spent 2 hours trying
You've shut
every
your
single.
shop for my
I have
clients.
shut my shop.
You have shut your
Yeah.
shop. Yeah.
Yeah, you've sent me some really lovely clients who have dogs with issues of some description who cannot, for many different reasons, sort of have their dog in a space where there's public. And the answer is we should never ever discriminate against those dogs. We should change what we're doing to enable those dogs to experience what everybody else does. Sometimes it's we don't let people in, but we'll still serve from the front, and other times it has been we'll shut the shop for you. And and we will just sit with that dog for half hour, an hour, if that's what it takes for that dog to get used to us. 3 sessions. I know Sophie's done one before where it's taken, I'm sure it was 3 sessions she's done one before, and that was definitely 2, but multiple sessions. We'll cut everybody out for however long, and it might take several sessions, and it's whatever's right for them. But it's getting this misinformation, it's getting this people thinking, who was it? Somebody said to me the other day, it's the people that have the small amount of information that are the worst, because they have
was
enough.
Me earlier.
Okay, all right. It's been a long day.
That was like the last conversation we had today.
So Sophie said earlier, it's the people with the small amount of information that are the worst, because they've got enough to go by that they know that there's a problem, but they don't have enough to realize that what they believe isn't right. I'm paraphrasing there. She put it far more eloquently than I did.
Sorry, Andrew just came home. That's why I had to put mute on. My dogs were just like,
yeah, Ruby's in the background snoring. Can you hear her?
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't think you can on Zoom. It does kind of block out a lot of noise. Oh, hello,
sorry, babe.
Sorry, you go back.
I was worrying. I was like, oh God, can everyone hear?
No, we can't hear her. We can't hear her.
Very beefy snore.
I think that's what impressed me about you guys, to start with, is that straight away it was all about, I can remember down on I think it was probably my first day there, that, you said to me, it isn't about selling things. It's about education, and that just, can you imagine if all pet shops did that? Was, that they actually put the welfare of the animals in front of how much money they're looking to earn. And actually, I think when you do it well, and when you've got people that are really passionate doing it, like yourself and Sophie, and hopefully I'm part of that equation now as well.
Absolutely, you are.
That people come back then because they start to trust you, and it's about that trust and that love for the animals that they're, and you can tell that not everyone, but there's a lot of our customers that can tell that, okay, these people are not trying to sell me something, they're literally trying to help me and my animals. That is what their main goal is. And that's what pet shops should be about, surely.
We've taken stuff out of people's hands before that we could have easily sold and just said, you don't need it, it's not going to fix whatever you're looking to do. And it's, I probably could be quite wealthy by now if I did it and, the way that the big boys do. And this is what really annoys me, because I don't know whether it's because they're buying from the brand or whatever, but people will trust Pets at Home over us because they're Pets at Home. And it's like, well, they're owned by a bunch of venture capitalists whose main goal is to make money from you. I do happen to know, because of industry secrets, why they're struggling at the moment, and I won't divulge it because it's, it's, I was told it in confidence, but ultimately it's purely and simply because of the direction they've been trying to push it, which isn't welfare based.
No.
So the good news from that is that um, it's almost like there's a turning point at the moment where people are starting to catch wind to it. Although we are still seeing a lot of people saying, "I'm going to go to B&M to buy that," and it's like, well, you know, things might be cheaper in B&M, but they're not going to be advising you on anything. They're not going to be, it's not the best interest.
That's the thing, though. It goes to much a cultural sort of deeper level where we are, I think, in society at the moment, doesn't it? Is
Oh,
that
100%.
and I must admit, I've definitely been guilty of it. I live very rurally. I've always lived very rurally. I have epilepsy, so I'm not able to drive. So me getting places, so Amazon has become my best friend, and I am definitely guilty of that. That it's a lot easier for me to get on my phone and just quickly order something than it is to go to a local shop. But working in the shop with you guys it's put me actually back into my mental health support days of support, and I'm loving it. I love that, I have people coming into the shops now on a Monday because they know I'm there, just because they know it's someone that they can talk to and they're struggling with their mental health, and
Yeah.
I love that people have got that, and that there are older people that are on their own, that have lost their husbands or their wives and their family, and that they literally have no one else, and they come in just for a chat with us and to buy their bird food and to spend 20 minutes, half an hour talking to us. And we're losing that community, and I don't think it's lovely to
Well, it's like,
right there, Tilda. I have
can you
no
can you
idea what
imagine a
she's
world where we lost all our independent shops, and that community focus has gone, the
That is
isolation
happening, though,
alone?
isn't it? You
Yeah.
go to places that have no core now, that are just high-rise buildings, and that is all there are. We are losing communities. And then we're seeing a rise in mental health issues. We're seeing more chronic health issues. And don't get me wrong, there's so many different reasons for that. But I honestly also believe that it's because of a lack of community. I mean, we are social beings. We are built to be around each other. And I think COVID put a massive pressure on it, that again, with kind of pushing us more online. And don't get me wrong, I do it, we're here, and I love it because I get to see Sue and Lottie, who I don't live down the road to, and so there are some lovely things about that, and having communities online. But we need those communities that well, a guy came in the other day, and I'm sure he wouldn't even mind me saying, but he came in just, he was really upset and crying, and I stood there hugging him. He was soaking wet from the rain. I stood there hugging him for 5 minutes. You can't do that online. If there were no shops, he wouldn't have had anywhere to go to do that with. And it's just, so it's about all animals, isn't it? Human
Yeah.
animals as well as other animals.
And I'm really proud that we've created a safe space for people to do that. Holsworthy was relatively easy to do that with, because I started this from nothing. So this was an empty shop. I built this all up. We created the community focus. Sophie, essentially, when we took over Bude, because of some bits and pieces that were going on in Holsworthy at the time, which weren't present when I signed the contract to buy Bude, we ended up being in a position where she said to Sophie, "Here's your own shop. Have fun. You can't make it any worse than it is." And for a year, she created a team and um, a community that wasn't there before. And actually, it wasn't even that she was starting at zero. She was almost starting at, like, negative. Day one, I remember, oh God, day one, because obviously I was there day one, and for the first few customers that walked through the door, I was like, "Hiya, morning," and they just blanked me and walked past, and I just went,
Terrified
"What the
people with
heck?"
positivity. I've never seen anyone do that before.
Oh, Lottie
Like,
has just said, "This is amazing. I am loving it." And then I've lost her other chat that she's got to go, but that it was amazing. Why have I lost it? Oh, thank you, Rebecca. I have to go now, but what you're doing at the pet shop is amazing. Thank you, Lottie.
God bless.
See you soon.
Thank you, Lottie.
Yeah, I think well, shall we say, because we're going to have to kind of round it up, because our half an hour is we'll be seeing lots of more of you guys anyway, because we've got lots of exciting things between us all. And the next one is basically the conference. So
Yes.
we are running a conference next year. So West Country Pets and the Dog Witch are combining forces, and we've got a conference in Bude on the 21st and 22nd of November. Tickets are on sale. We are keeping prices very low, so it's only £127 for this type of conference. That's ridiculous. I've looked at other prices around, and yeah, we're very low compared to what other people are. And that's again something that we are trying to do, isn't it? Is just try and keep everything so that people can afford it. And that's 2 days, 11 speakers, food and drink for the lunchtime bits as well. So I mean, it's a really good bargain, basically.
And
so,
on top of that, for an additional fee of 45 pounds, we have a Magic Circle mentalist magician coming in, and a 2-course meal. What Jack can do with his mentalism is insane. Like,
he's just incredible.
I know how he does a lot of the stuff he does, and even I get caught out because it's just, yeah. So if you can kind of stretch to the additional 45 pounds,
yeah, it's going to be a good night.
Meal, quality meal, and what a show he's going to be putting on for us as well. Yeah. We're very lucky because it was going to be the tail end of his he was doing a tour, his first ever tour next year, and we're now one of a handful of exclusive dates because he's got some other projects he's working on beforehand next year. So yeah, so we are now one of his exclusive handful of dates, so we're very, very lucky to have him. So yeah,
it's very exciting.
That'd be great to do as well.
Very exciting. Right, well, thank you so much, my lovelies. I'm going to press stop record.